If you were to ask me what is my favorite game of 2024, or simply what is my game of the year, I would say Final Fantasy VII Rebirth before you even finish the question. Yes, it is that good. While something like Game of the Year is always going to be subjective, my personal pick is going to be Final Fantasy VII regardless. You might have another game that you like. It doesn't matter though. In the end, this game is absolutely amazing. From the improvements in combat from Remake, the deeper story, the voice acting in both English and Japanese, the open world and the things to do in it, it is all just meshed together so well. So, after playing through the full game and unlocking everything that I possibly could, hard mode will have to come later because it's, hard. The next question is, when is part 3 of this trilogy going to be out? Well, thankfully, we know that already, or rather, we thought we did. Yeah, now we're not 100% sure, and it all might come down to an engine. Thanks to an interview with Naoki Hamaguchi on gcworld.jp, there's some talk about Part 3 using Unreal Engine 4 or Unreal Engine 5. Depending on what happens, this could actually lead to a huge delay in Part 3. So today, I want to discuss with you, the viewer, should Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3 stay on UE4 or move over to UE5, and in the end, what I think they should personally do and why. So if you enjoy these type of discussion videos or anything that is Final Fantasy related, then help support us by leaving a comment down below, even if it's something as simple as your favorite Final Fantasy game or character. A like is also greatly appreciated as it tells us that you like this type of content. And of course, if you have any constructive criticism or things you think that we can do to improve our videos going forward, please let us know. Finally, if you really want to support us, hit that subscribe button as well, as we're super close to hitting our year-end goal of 5K subs. All right, let's get started. Now, if you saw our video covering Final Fantasy VII Rebirth and the Ultimania book that was released afterwards, remember this book right here? Yeah, it's pretty big. I was actually able to go through and translate one of the interview questions near the back of the book, where the heads of the team making the re-trilogy said that it would take less time to make Part 3 since the foundations from Remake and Rebirth have already been made and most of the team is still around. In fact, I believe the page was 742, so if you happen to have the book yourself, check it out. In fact, during the time of all those interviews and that book being made, they stated that they were very close to starting recording and motion capture. Well, it's already August of 2024, and we know that they actually have started recording / doing motion capture. Some of the motion capture actors and actresses over here in Japan have been posting on their social media pages that they've been working through the summer already, so that's awesome. In fact, after reading all this, many of us believe that this will line up perfectly with a 2027 release date, which is 3 years into the future for waiting. That also happens to be around the time of the 30th anniversary of Final Fantasy VII. So everything should be good then. Over 80% of the team from Remake and Rebirth are still there, the team has a singular vision that they're all working towards, and everything for the most part is going pretty smoothly. That was back in April 2024, however, though. Fast forward to August of 2024, and we just got an interview with the head director of Rebirth himself on cgworld.jp, which you can find yourself down in the pinned comments. During the first half of the interview, they cover questions that we've typically seen answered in the past. How the process of making Rebirth after Remake was, how long did it take to make, how is it changing over from the PS4 to the PS5, and so on. Again, these are questions that we've seen answered over the years. Answers like having most of the team around made things much easier, and getting to use the SSD in the PS5 compared to the PS4 made things like loading a lot faster. However, where things get interesting is the later half of the interview, where it actually starts to get pretty technical. Combine that with trying to translate from Japanese to English, and it can get pretty difficult to get word for word exactly what is said in this interview. Now, according to my wife, who is Japanese, by the way, she says that my ability to speak Japanese is around a high school level. However, if we have to go into something like kanji writing and everything else, it's probably at a lower end of, say, early junior high. So I by no means am fluent here. But I've been able to look at some of the kanji that I do know and make an educated guess on what some things are said, not to mention that there are other people who have fully translated, so I will be using their work as here, so obviously go check them out as they get full credit for being able to translate this stuff. One thing to note on this particular link is that you can change the language on the site to English, but as we know, when it comes to translation software, it's never 100%. Anyway, back to the topic at hand of using UE4 and UE5, a question was asked about how the level of graphical fidelity was raised due to the Unreal Engine and the large scale that had been implemented going from a game like Remake to Rebirth. The answer given here that you can see on screen says that using UE4 was by choice. Doing this, especially after Remake, allowed them to proceed faster with development, which helped get Rebirth done in about 4 years. Technically, it only took them 3 years to complete Rebirth, since year 1 was working on some experimental stuff, along with the Integrate DLC for Remake. After that, it was smooth sailing to finish it off within about 3 years. It's also stated that they decided pretty early on after Remake to stick with UE4 as the base, but would obviously develop other code and functions as the development continued. Turns out this was a very good move on their part since things went very smoothly. While UE4 is not perfect by any means and Rebirth is not running at 4K 120 FPS, overall the game ran actually pretty well, especially when you realize that there is no loading screens when exploring the open world near the end of the game. Try traveling from Gongaga all the way over to the first area not using fast travel. Yeah, it's pretty good. Although I will say, just fix your lighting tech there. The sun can get pretty bright sometimes. The thing just blinds me. Hamaguchi-san also said that if new technology ever got implemented that messed with their current engine, it would make things a lot tougher instead of easier. The example he gave was that if new technology from Epic Games was implemented / update in something like UE5 during the time that they are working with UE5, then it would create some more headaches. This is why they took the safer route to develop with UE4 to avoid these risks. Plus, it's been stated in other interviews that while using UE4, they have a bunch of custom code that they have worked on over the years to make things unique to that particular game with the current UE4 engine. So you can think of it more of as a 4.5 engine that has custom built parts to it. This is actually pretty normal within the gaming industry. Another example of this is actually CD Projekt Red, makers of The Witcher 3 and Cyberpunk, and they've even stated in interviews that they're working with Epic Games that have really helped them develop custom settings for something like The Witcher 4, making development a lot easier. Okay, I hear you typing in the comments. So it sounds like they're going to simply stick with UE4 and it should be out by 2027. What a waste of a video here, Talon. Well, if you go to the final question of this particular interview, Hamaguchi-san was asked if they are considering moving over to UE5 for their next work, which is aka Remake Part 3. Now, for this particular part, shout out to Genki for this translation. Go check out his socials. He covers gaming news here in Japan all the time. It seems that according to this translation right here, it seems that they are considering using UE5 for the final game, but believes what players want most is for them to deliver the game in good shape as soon as possible. He says he will make a decision based on whether it will be faster to switch engines or whether it is best to make it all at once as it is now. Now, before anyone tries to go into the comments again saying, just move over to UE5, it's easy and looks better, just stop. Every single time I hear this particular comment or see it written, I want to gouge my eyes out. If you've ever gotten the chance to talk to someone who has worked within programming, development, you name it, then you should easily know already that it's never as simple as click a button and change things over. While small things can be easy to move from UE4 to UE5, if 2020 to 2024 has taught us anything, it's that that is never the case fully. Especially with a game that has a lot of custom settings and code used in UE4 and they might not transfer over to UE5, or in a worst case scenario, don't even exist. How many games have we seen released that were made on UE5 / are being made on the engine right now and have performance issues? Looking at you, Lords of Fallen or Mortals of Avium, or heck, even something on UE4 like Jedi Survivor. Yeah, you guys remember that technical mess at the beginning?
For the love of God, please!
Now, one of the obvious things is that UE5 is more graphically demanding. No shocker there, but it's also due to smaller things like Lumen. Now, a quick and dirty description of something like Lumen is that it's a reflection system and helps with dynamic global illumination. This particular setting can be very graphically demanding. If you ever played a game like Remnant 2, they actually stayed away from something like Lumen and it was for the better in the end. However, that game also uses another program called Nanite, which adds to how demanding something like UE5 can be. Another side note when it comes to modern games, at least AAA standards, is that so many people want to see all these realistic graphics, reflections, and everything, when in reality, that takes a lot of processing power graphically, whether it's on the CPU or GPU, and depending on what you're running it on, it's not going to run well. So, going back to Final Fantasy VII Remake Part 3, is it worth it to change over to something like UE5? Personally, I'm going to say a big fat no. With all the foundations made in both Remake and Rebirth and getting to build upon that, why make it harder on the teams switching engines when the last 4 years have proven it's nowhere near as easy to just simply hit a button and change everything over to UE5? Now, obviously, I'm not on the team making Final Fantasy, I'm just simply making a discussion video here on YouTube. So if any developers want to contact me and want to chat about this, please feel free to reach out and contact me. My email's over on my Twitter page, which is linked down below. Maybe they have some insight on how they actually cracked the code and moving over to UE5 is not as bad as compared to a year or two ago. Now, I will fully admit that part of this is obviously due to the fact that I don't want Remake Part 3 to get delayed to, say, 2030. This is Part 3 of the Remake trilogy, and it's the biggest game of said trilogy. They cannot afford to mess this up at the finish line. I believe the story, the voice acting, the gameplay, and all that stuff is going to be amazing, just like Part 1 and Part 2. But if this game runs into any kind of technical mess with stuttering, dropped frames into the single digits, just to get some more reflections, yeah, that's a hard pass. If they want to use UE5, I say finish part 3 in UE4, then when making the full 3-part game where you have all 3 parts of the trilogy released at once, let's be honest, they're going to, Square is a business, then go ahead and switch over to UE5 at that time after the original part 3 has been released already and make those updates. That can then release during the next-gen consoles, aka the PS6, the PC, and Xbox insert weird name here. Come on, you know it's true. Xbox Series X and S, Xbox One.
Oh, hell no!
Again, simply switching over to a new engine, even if it is UE5, is not as easy as some may lead you to believe. And who knows, maybe they've already decided and they're simply going to stick with UE4. Or they found some magic code to help them with UE5 and have custom code with the help of Epic to avoid performance hiccups that games have in the past. History, unfortunately, does not say otherwise though, only time is going to tell. But now I want to ask you, what do you personally think? Should FF7 Remake Part 3 stay on the Unreal Engine 4 or move over to 5, even if it potentially means a longer dev time? Which, do keep in mind that a lot of people do like to complain online about how long it takes games to be made these days, and how a lot of them are doing unnecessary things like these little hair details on someone's cheek. But as always, let me know your thoughts down below in the comments. And of course, if you enjoyed this type of video, then consider hitting that sub button. We are super close to reaching our year-end goal, like I said at the beginning, to 5K subs. Also, don't forget to follow us over on social media, where we can notify you when we're going live, have new discussion videos up, and even have exclusive shorts and clips posted there as often as we can. Link, of course, for those will be in the pinned comments. Again, I want to thank everyone for joining me in today's video. I've been Talon with Direct Gaming. It's always awesome to talk to you guys in the comments whenever I can, and obviously live if you join us there. Thank you so much again, though, for watching this video, and I hope you have a great day and week. And until next time, everyone, Johnny.